The morning sun reflected off the glass towers of Sterling Galactic Industries as people hurried through the main entrance. Inside the building on the 42nd floor, the executive boardroom buzzed with nervous energy. Today was important. The company needed to find someone who could communicate with the Zhengtar, an alien race that humanity had recently encountered. The problem was simple but frustrating. The Zhengtar spoke a language that sounded remarkably similar to ancient Chinese dialects, but with layers of complexity that made it nearly impossible for most humans to understand. Gregory Hamilton sat at the head of the mahogany table, his expensive suit perfectly pressed and his silver watch gleaming under the lights. He had been with Sterling Galactic for 20 years and had worked his way up to executive vice president. His wealth was substantial, his influence even more so. He looked at the three candidates sitting nervously in chairs along the wall. Each one had impressive credentials from top universities. Each one had studied linguistics for years. Each one had failed the translation test miserably. The door opened and Patricia Monroe walked in carrying a tablet and a coffee cup. She wore her usual professional attire, a simple blue blazer and black pants. Patricia had worked in logistics at Sterling Galactic for 15 years. She coordinated shipments, managed warehouses, and solved problems that others found impossible. She was good at her job, but she knew she would never move higher. That was just how things worked. Behind her walked her daughter Maya, a 16-year-old girl with braided hair and curious eyes. Patricia had brought Maya to work today because school was on break, and leaving her home alone seemed unwise. Gregory barely glanced at them. Patricia was just another employee to him, someone who did grunt work while he made the real decisions. Maya was invisible to him, just a kid who should not be in such an important meeting. Patricia found 2 empty chairs in the corner and whispered to Maya to stay quiet and not touch anything. The fourth candidate, a man named Dr. Leonard Shaw with gray hair and thick glasses, stepped up to the podium. He was the company's lead xenolinguist, someone who studied alien languages professionally. Gregory handed him a datapad containing a message from the Zhengtar. The message was an invitation to discuss trade agreements and technology exchanges. It seemed simple enough, but the meaning hidden in the tones and inflections was crucial. One wrong interpretation could insult an entire civilization. Dr. Shaw cleared his throat and began translating. His voice was confident as he read through the message, explaining that the Zhengtar were interested in basic mineral trades and wanted to establish shipping routes. Maya, sitting quietly in the corner, frowned. She leaned toward her mother and whispered something. Patricia shushed her gently, not wanting to draw attention, but Maya whispered again, more urgently this time. She pointed at the datapad projection on the wall and said the translation was wrong. Patricia's eyes widened and she squeezed her daughter's hand, warning her to be silent. Gregory, however, had heard the whisper. He turned his head slowly, his eyes landing on Maya with the kind of look someone gives to an annoying insect. "Excuse me," Gregory said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Did that child just say something about my expert's translation?" The room fell silent. Dr. Shaw stopped mid-sentence, looking offended. Patricia felt her stomach drop. She knew what was coming. She had seen that look on Gregory's face before, the look of a man who enjoyed putting others in their place. Maya, instead of shrinking back, sat up straighter. "The tone in the third phrase is wrong," she said clearly. He translated it as requesting mineral trades, but the rising tone combined with that particular character structure means they are offering mineral trades as a gesture of goodwill. "It is completely different," Gregory laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who found the situation absurd and amusing. Several other executives in the room joined in, their chuckles filling the space. Dr. Shaw's face turned red with embarrassment and anger. "This is precious," Gregory said, leaning back in his chair. "A teenager thinks she knows better than a man with 3 PhDs. Tell you what, Patricia, if your daughter can actually translate this message, and I mean really translate it with all the nuances and cultural context that our very expensive expert here provides, I will give you my job. Yes, you heard that right. I will step down and you can be executive vice president." The laughter grew louder. It was clear to everyone that Gregory was mocking them. There was no possibility in his mind that a young black girl from the logistics department could do what trained professionals could not. Patricia felt humiliation burn in her chest, but she also felt something else. She felt pride because Maya did not look scared. Her daughter looked determined. I accept, Maya said simply. Gregory's smile widened. This would be entertaining at least. He gestured grandly toward the podium. By all means, impress us. Maya stood and walked to the front of the room. She was small compared to the adults around her, but she moved with confidence. Patricia's heart pounded as she watched her daughter take the datapad from Dr. Shaw, who handed it over with a smirk. Maya looked at the screen for a long moment, her eyes moving rapidly as she read the Jungtar script. Then she began to speak. Her voice was clear and steady. She did not just translate the words. She explained the grammar structure, identifying elements similar to Mandarin but noting differences that aligned more closely with Cantonese tonal patterns. She pointed out philosophical references embedded in the text that came from classical Chinese literature, specifically from works that emphasized harmony and mutual respect. She explained that the Zhongatar were not just offering trade. They were testing humanity to see if humans understood the deeper meaning of cooperation. The room had gone completely silent. Even Gregory stopped smiling. Maya continued, breaking down each phrase and explaining why certain tones meant certain things. She talked about how the Zhengtar had clearly studied Earth's languages and had chosen to model their communication style on Chinese because it allowed for layers of meaning that alphabetic languages could not easily convey. When she finished, she set the datapad down and looked at Gregory. The previous translation missed the entire point of the message, she said. If we had responded based on that translation, we would have insulted them by treating a gift as a business transaction. Dr. Shaw stood frozen, his face pale. He knew she was right. Everyone in the room knew she was right. The accuracy and depth of her analysis was undeniable. Gregory stared at Maya as if seeing her for the first time. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The door to the boardroom opened again, and Victoria Palmer walked in. She was the CEO of Sterling Galactic Industries, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had built this company from nothing and had little patience for foolishness. I heard we had some excitement in here, she said, looking around the room. Someone want to tell me what is going on? Victoria Palmer stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, waiting for an explanation. The silence in the boardroom felt heavy and uncomfortable. Gregory shifted in his seat, suddenly looking less confident than he had moments before. Patricia remained frozen in her corner chair, unsure whether to speak up or stay quiet. Maya simply stood at the podium, waiting patiently. Well, Victoria said, her voice cutting through the tension. Someone speak. One of the junior executives, a nervous man named Richard Grant, raised his hand slightly. Ma'am, we were conducting translator interviews for the Jungtar mission. There was a disagreement about a translation and, Gregory made a statement. Victoria's eyes narrowed. She had not gotten to her position by being oblivious to office politics. What kind of statement? Gregory cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. I simply made a light-hearted comment about the accuracy of translations. Nothing serious. He said if I could translate the Zhongatar message correctly, he would give my mother his job. Maya said clearly. I did translate it. He was recorded saying it. Victoria's eyebrows rose. She looked at Gregory, then at Maya, then at the datapad still displaying the alien message. Is this true, Gregory? Gregory's face reddened. It was a joke, Victoria. Obviously, I did not mean it literally. But you said it, Victoria replied, in a professional setting in front of witnesses regarding a critical company matter. She walked further into the room and picked up the datapad. So let me understand this. You challenged a 16-year-old girl to translate something our expensive experts could not, and she succeeded? Dr. Shaw finally found his voice. With all due respect, ma'am, we should verify her translation with the linguistics team before making any hasty conclusions. Victoria looked at him. You are the linguistics team, Leonard. You are the one who trained the other candidates. Are you telling me you cannot confirm whether this girl's translation is accurate or not? Dr. Shaw hesitated. The truth was he knew Maya was correct. Her understanding of the tonal structures and cultural references was beyond what he had achieved himself. But admitting that meant admitting he had failed. Her translation is accurate, he said quietly. More than accurate. It shows understanding that our team has been working months to develop. Victoria set the datapad down and looked at Maya directly. Where did you learn to do this? Maya glanced at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. I have been teaching myself languages since I was 7, Maya explained. My mom could not afford expensive programs, but the community center near our apartment had virtual reality language learning stations. I started with Spanish because my neighbors spoke it. Then I tried Mandarin because I liked how it sounded. I got really interested in tonal languages after that. Cantonese, Vietnamese, Thai. I learned that tone changes meaning in ways that English speakers do not naturally understand. That explains human languages, Victoria said. What about Jungatar? That is an alien language. How did you learn that? Maya's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. 3 months ago, the company released some Jungatar audio recordings for research purposes. They were available on the public database. I downloaded them and started listening. I noticed immediately that their language structure was similar to Chinese dialects but with extra tonal layers. I got obsessed with figuring out the patterns. I would listen for hours every night, making notes, comparing phrases, looking for grammar rules. Patricia spoke up for the first time, her voice proud but worried. She would stay up past midnight with headphones on, filling notebooks with symbols and sound patterns. I told her to focus on school, but she said this was more interesting than anything they taught her in class. Victoria studied Maya with growing respect. The girl had not just memorized phrases. She had analyzed an entirely new language system on her own, without formal training, without expensive software, without anyone telling her it was possible. That took intelligence, certainly, but it also took passion and dedication. Gregory, Victoria said, turning to face the executive vice president. You made a promise in front of multiple witnesses regarding a matter of company business. I am holding you to it. Gregory stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You cannot be serious. I am not giving up my position because of a joke. It was not a joke, Victoria said coldly. It was arrogance. You assumed this girl could not possibly know what she was talking about because of her age and her background. You were wrong. In this company, we value competence and integrity. You demonstrated neither. The other executives watched in stunned silence. Some looked uncomfortable, others looked secretly pleased. Gregory had not been popular among his colleagues. His tendency to take credit for others' work and his dismissive attitude toward subordinates had created enemies. I will sue, Gregory threatened. This is wrongful termination. You are not being terminated, Victoria corrected. You are being asked to honor a commitment you made voluntarily. If you refuse, then you are breaking a recorded verbal contract, which actually is grounds for termination plus legal penalties. Your choice. Gregory looked around the room seeking support. He found none. Even Dr. Shaw, who had been complicit in the mockery, looked away. Richard Grant would not meet his eyes. The other executives suddenly found their tablets very interesting. This is ridiculous, Gregory muttered, but his fight was gone. He knew Victoria was right about the recording. In an age where every corporate meeting was documented for legal purposes, his words were permanent evidence. Fine, I will step down. But this is not over. Yes, it is, Victoria said simply. She turned to Patricia. Ms. Monroe, effective immediately, you are promoted to executive vice president. Your salary will reflect the position, and you will receive full executive benefits. You will also need to relocate to the executive floor and begin transition training next week. Patricia felt dizzy. One moment she was a logistics coordinator, the next she was one of the highest-ranking people in the company. It did not feel real. I thank you, ma'am. I will do my best. I know you will, Victoria said. Then she looked at Maya again. As for you, young lady, I have a proposition. Sterling Galactic is sending a diplomatic mission to the Jungtar homeworld in 6 weeks. We need someone who truly understands their language and culture. I want you on that team. Maya's eyes widened. You want me to go to an alien planet? I want you to be our cultural liaison and primary translator, Victoria clarified. You would work with our diplomatic team, help negotiate agreements, and ensure we do not accidentally start an interstellar incident. The position comes with full compensation, educational benefits, and when you return, Sterling Galactic will fund your college education in any field you choose. Patricia stood up quickly. Ma'am, she's only 16. A mission like that could be dangerous. It could be, Victoria agreed, but it could also be the opportunity of a lifetime. The Jungtar are one of the most advanced species we have encountered. Learning from them, building relationships with them, could change the course of human history. Your daughter has a gift, Ms. Monroe. The question is whether we let fear hold her back or whether we trust her to rise to the challenge. Maya looked at her mother. She saw the worry in Patricia's eyes, but she also saw something else. pride. Her mother had always supported her, even when money was tight and sacrifices had to be made. Patricia had worked double shifts to afford decent school supplies. She had gone without new clothes so Maya could have a computer for studying. Now finally, all that sacrifice was leading somewhere. "I want to do it, Mom," Maya said softly. "I want to go." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. She pulled her daughter into a tight hug. "Then you will go. But you better call me every single day, even if it is from halfway across the galaxy." Victoria smiled slightly. It was rare that she witnessed such genuine moments in the cutthroat world of corporate business. "It is settled then. Maya, report to the training center tomorrow morning. You have 6 weeks to prepare. Patricia, my assistant will help you with your transition. Gregory, security will escort you to collect your personal belongings." As people began to file out of the boardroom, Maya stood still for a moment, processing everything that had just happened. She had walked into this building as a bored teenager killing time during school break. She was leaving as the youngest xenolinguistic consultant in human history. Life had a funny way of changing when you least expected it. The training center at Sterling Galactic Industries occupied 3 entire floors of the building. Maya arrived early the next morning, her backpack filled with notebooks and her mind buzzing with excitement and nervousness. The security guard at the entrance checked her new identification badge twice, clearly surprised that someone so young had executive-level clearance. He waved her through eventually, and Maya took the elevator to the 38th floor. The training center looked like a combination of a university classroom and a spaceship simulator. One wall displayed a massive star chart showing known alien territories. Another wall had screens cycling through various alien species, their languages and their cultural practices. In the center of the room stood several virtual reality pods designed to simulate different planetary environments. Maya had seen pictures of places like this but had never imagined she would actually be inside one. "You must be Maya," a voice said from behind her. Maya turned to see a tall woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore a military-style uniform with patches indicating her rank. "I am Lisa Chen, security chief for the diplomatic mission. I will be responsible for keeping everyone alive on this trip, which includes you." Maya shook her hand. "Nice to meet you." "We will see if you still think so after training," Lisa said with a slight smile. "The diplomat leading this mission is Ambassador Carl Bennett. He is experienced but old-fashioned. Be prepared for him to question everything you do. The ship's captain is Commander Nathan Price. He runs a tight ship and does not like surprises. Then there is Raymond Foster, our science officer. He is decent, a bit awkward, but he means well." As if on cue, 3 men entered the training center. Ambassador Bennett was exactly what Maya expected. An older man in an expensive suit with gray hair and a stern expression. Commander Price wore a Navy uniform with military precision, his posture straight and his eyes sharp. Raymond Foster was younger, maybe in his 30s, with messy brown hair and a friendly smile. "So you are the girl?" Ambassador Bennett said, looking Maya up and down. His tone was not hostile, but it was not warm either. It was the tone of someone reserving judgment. "Victoria tells me you are some kind of language genius." "I am just someone who likes studying languages," Maya replied politely. Liking something and being qualified for a high-stakes diplomatic mission are 2 different things, Bennett continued. "I have been doing this work for 30 years. I have negotiated treaties with 4 different alien species. I need to know that when we are standing in front of the Zhongatar leadership, you will not freeze up or make a mistake that costs us everything." Maya met his gaze steadily. "I understand the stakes, sir. I would not be here if I was not ready." Commander Price stepped forward. "Ready or not, you are here now. My job is to get us to Zhongtar space safely and bring us home again. That means everyone follows protocols. Everyone respects the chain of command, and everyone does exactly what they are told when I give an order. Age and special talents do not matter on my ship. Clear?" "Clear," Maya said. Raymond Foster extended his hand warmly. "Do not let them scare you. They are grumpy because they have to wake up early. I am Raymond, but everyone calls me Ray. I study xenobiology and planetary ecosystems. If you have any questions about anything science-related, I'm your guy." Maya shook his hand gratefully. At least one person seemed genuinely friendly. The next 6 weeks were the most intense of Maya's life. Every morning she arrived at the training center by 7. She studied Zhongtar cultural practices, learning that they valued directness but also appreciated poetic language. They considered silence to be a sign of wisdom, but interrupting someone was considered deeply disrespectful. Their society was organized around knowledge sharing, and they viewed hoarding information as one of the worst possible offenses. She learned about the ship she would be traveling on, the Horizon Explorer. It was a diplomatic vessel designed for long-range missions, equipped with both defensive weapons and advanced communication systems. She practiced moving in zero gravity, which made her sick the first few times but eventually became manageable. She learned basic first aid, emergency procedures, and how to use the escape pods. Dr. Shaw was assigned as her official instructor for language refinement. Their relationship was awkward at first. He clearly resented being shown up by a teenager, but he was professional enough to do his job. Over time, as he saw Maya's genuine passion for linguistics, his attitude softened. He began sharing insights from his own research, and Maya absorbed everything like a sponge. But not everyone was supportive. Ambassador Bennett remained skeptical. During simulations where Maya had to translate mock diplomatic exchanges, he would interrupt her, questioning her choices, suggesting she was too young to understand the political implications of certain phrases. Maya remained calm and explained her reasoning each time, but the constant challenges wore on her. Commander Price was even more difficult. He did not trust civilians on his ship, and he especially did not trust teenagers. He ran extra drills, testing Maya's ability to follow orders under pressure. He would suddenly sound alarms during her training sessions, forcing her to evacuate to designated safe zones. He timed everything, noted every hesitation, and made it clear he was looking for reasons to remove her from the mission. Patricia visited when she could, but her new position kept her busy. She was adjusting to executive responsibilities, attending meetings about logistics networks and supply chains that spanned multiple star systems. Gregory's allies within the company made things difficult for her, questioning her decisions, slowing down her access to information. But Patricia had spent 15 years solving impossible problems. She was patient, thorough, and unwilling to be intimidated. One evening, 3 weeks into training, Maya sat in the cafeteria picking at her dinner. She was exhausted. Her body ached from the physical training. Her mind felt overloaded with information, and she was starting to doubt whether she was actually ready for this. Lisa Chen sat down across from her with a tray of food. "You look like you are about to quit," Lisa said casually. Maya looked up surprised. "I am not quitting." "Good, because Bennett and Price are both hoping you will. They do not think you belong here. They think Victoria made a political move by hiring you. Something about diversity quotas and public relations. They are wrong, of course, but they believe it." "How do you know they are wrong?" Maya asked. Lisa took a bite of her food before answering. "Because I have seen you work. I have watched you spend 12 hours straight studying Jungtar ceremonial greetings, because you wanted to understand not just what to say, but why they say it that way. I have seen you correct Dr. Shaw when he made mistakes, and you were always right. Talent is talent regardless of where it comes from or what it looks like." Maya felt a warmth in her chest. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet. The real test comes when we land on Qingshar. That is when you will have to prove yourself for real. Bennett and Price will be watching for any mistake, any sign that you do not belong. You need to be perfect." "Nobody is perfect," Maya said quietly. "True. But you need to be close enough that they cannot use your mistakes against you. Fair or not, that is the reality." The training continued. Maya pushed herself harder, studied longer, practiced until her pronunciation was flawless. She memorized cultural protocols, studied Jungtar history, learned about their art and their philosophy. She discovered that the Jungtar had a concept similar to the Chinese idea of yin and yang, a balance between knowledge and wisdom, between progress and patience. On the final day of training, Victoria Palmer herself came to observe the last simulation. It was a complex scenario where the diplomatic team had to negotiate a trade agreement while navigating cultural misunderstandings and technical difficulties. Ambassador Bennett led the negotiation while Maya translated. Commander Price monitored from the ship's bridge simulation, and Raymond provided scientific data about resource compatibility. The simulation threw multiple problems at them. The Jungtar representatives, played by trained actors, deliberately used obscure phrases and philosophical references. They questioned human intentions, brought up historical conflicts, and tested whether the diplomatic team truly understood their values. Maya translated rapidly. not just converting words but explaining context, alerting Bennett when certain phrases carried hidden meanings, suggesting responses that would resonate with Jungtar culture. The simulation lasted 4 hours. When it finally ended, everyone was exhausted. Victoria stood up from her observation seat and looked at the team. Well done. You launch in 3 days. Use that time to rest and prepare. Maya, a word please. Maya followed Victoria out of the training center and into a private office. Victoria sat behind a desk and gestured for Maya to sit as well. You have done well, Victoria said. Better than I expected, honestly. But I need to be honest with you about something. This mission is critical for humanity. The Jungtar possess technology that could revolutionize space travel, medicine, and energy production. But they are careful about who they share knowledge with. They have rejected partnerships with other species before because those species did not demonstrate the right values. If this mission fails... Launch day arrived with clear skies and nervous energy. Maya stood in the departure terminal at the Sterling Galactic Spaceport, her small duffel bag packed with clothes, personal items, and 3 notebooks filled with her language research. Patricia stood beside her, trying to stay composed but failing. Her eyes kept getting wet and she kept wiping them with a tissue. You have your medication for space sickness, Patricia said for the 3rd time. And you have the emergency contact codes. And you know how to use the communication system to call me. Mom, I know. We went over this 10 times last night, Maya said, but she was smiling. She understood. Her mother was scared. I am allowed to worry. You are going to an alien planet millions of miles from Earth. What kind of mother would I be if I was not worried? Maya hugged her tightly. The best kind. The kind who let me take this chance. Patricia pulled back and held Maya's face in her hands. You are so much braver than I ever was. When I was your age, I was scared to speak up in class. You are about to speak to an entire alien civilization. I am so proud of you, baby. Final boarding call for Horizon Explorer, a voice announced over the speakers. All personnel report to Gate 7. Maya picked up her bag and joined the line of people walking toward the gate. She saw Ambassador Bennett ahead of her, talking seriously with an assistant. Commander Price was inspecting something on a datapad, his expression stern as always. Lisa Chen walked past and gave Maya an encouraging nod. Raymond Foster was juggling 3 different bags and nearly dropped one, which made Maya smile despite her nerves. The Horizon Explorer was impressive. Maya had seen pictures during training, but seeing the actual ship in person was different. It was sleek and silver, with blue lights running along its hull. The diplomatic emblem of Earth was painted near the nose, a stylized globe surrounded by olive branches. The ship was smaller than military vessels, but still large enough to house a crew of 20, plus all the equipment needed for a months-long mission. Inside, the ship was functional, but comfortable. The walls were a clean white with blue accent strips. The corridors were wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. Maya found her quarters, a small room with a bed, a desk, a storage locker, and a porthole window that would show the stars once they left Earth's atmosphere. She unpacked her things carefully, organizing her notebooks and setting up her small datapad on the desk. A knock on her door made her turn around. Raymond Foster stood there holding a box. Hey, I brought you a welcome gift. It is not much, just something that helped me when I did my first space mission. Maya opened the box to find a small plant in a clear container. It had green leaves and tiny white flowers. What is it? It is called a peace lily. They are good at surviving in recycled air environments. Having something living in your quarters helps remind you of home. Plus, talking to plants is scientifically proven to reduce stress, so you will have someone to complain to when Bennett gets on your nerves. Maya laughed. Thank you, Ray. This is really thoughtful. No problem. Also, fair warning, we have a crew meeting in 20 minutes. Bennett is going to go over the mission parameters again. It is going to be boring, but attendance is mandatory. The crew meeting took place in the main conference room. 20 people sat around a large oval table, each representing different aspects of the mission. Besides the people Maya already knew, there were engineers, medical staff, communications officers, and security personnel. Everyone looked professional and experienced. Maya felt young and out of place. Ambassador Bennett stood at the head of the table. Thank you all for being here. As you know, we depart in 2 hours. Our destination is Qingshar, the homeworld of the Jungtar. Travel time is approximately 3 weeks. During that time, I expect everyone to use the opportunity to review their assignments and prepare for planetside operations. He went through a detailed schedule, explaining when they would have briefings, when they would conduct drills, and when they would have meetings to coordinate strategy. Then he got to the part Maya had been dreading. Our translation team consists of Dr. Leonard Shaw and Maya Monroe. Dr. Shaw will handle technical and scientific communications. Maya will focus on diplomatic and cultural exchanges. I want to be clear about something. This mission cannot afford errors. Every word we speak to the Jungtar matters. Every gesture, every tone, every choice of phrase could impact the outcome. I need absolute confidence in our translators. He looked directly at Maya when he said this. The implication was clear. He still had doubts about her. One of the engineers, a woman named Helen Ross, raised her hand. Ambassador, no disrespect intended, but is it standard protocol to bring someone so young on a mission of this importance? I have a daughter Maya's age, and I would not trust her to negotiate with aliens. Maya felt her face flush. She wanted to defend herself, but knew that interrupting would only make things worse. Ambassador Bennett sighed. The decision to include Maya on this team was made by CEO Palmer. I have expressed my concerns, but those concerns were overruled. We will proceed with the assigned team and make the best of it. With all due respect, sir, that is not an answer, said Commander Price. What happens if she freezes during a critical moment? What if she makes a translation error that offends the Jungtar? We need contingency plans. The contingency plan is Dr. Shaw, Bennett replied. If there are any issues with Maya's performance, he will take over primary translation duties. Dr. Shaw nodded. I am prepared to step in as needed. Maya felt anger rising in her chest. They were talking about her like she was not even in the room. They were planning for her failure before she even had a chance to succeed. Lisa Chen must have noticed her expression because she spoke up. Maybe we should let Maya speak for herself. She earned her place on this team. The least we can do is hear what she has to say. All eyes turned to Maya. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. I understand your concerns. I am young, and I do not have formal credentials like Dr. Shaw, but I have spent 3 months studying Jungtar language and culture intensively. I have reviewed every recording we have of their communications. I understand not just what they say, but why they say it that way. I know this is a huge responsibility, and I take it seriously. I will not let you down. Helen Ross did not look convinced. But what if you do? What if the pressure is too much? Then I will deal with it, Maya said firmly. But I would appreciate it if you all stopped assuming I will fail before I even get a chance to try. The room fell silent. Ambassador Bennett cleared his throat. Fair enough. We all have our assignments. Let us focus on doing our jobs. Dismissed. As people filed out, Raymond walked beside Maya. That took guts. Most people would have stayed quiet. Staying quiet does not change anyone's mind, Maya replied. At least now they know I am not going to just accept being doubted. The next 3 weeks were challenging in ways Maya had not expected. Living in space was strange. Everything felt slightly off. Food tasted different because smell worked differently in recycled air. Sleep was difficult because there was no natural day and night cycle. Exercise was mandatory to prevent muscle loss, which meant spending an hour every day on resistance machines that felt awkward and uncomfortable. But the hardest part was the social dynamics. Maya ate meals in the crew cafeteria, and she noticed that people separated into groups. The engineers sat together. The security team had their own table. The medical staff clustered in a corner. Maya did not fit into any group. She was too young to relate to most of the crew, and her special position made her an outsider. She spent most of her free time in her quarters, studying or talking to her plant. She called Patricia every evening, and her mother would tell her about work, about the challenges of dealing with corporate politics, about how much she missed her daughter. Those calls were the highlight of Maya's day. Dr. Shaw was professional during their scheduled work sessions, but their relationship remained strained. He would quiz her on Jungtar grammar, and when she answered correctly, he would move on without comment. When she asked him questions, he would give brief answers without elaboration. It was clear he was doing his job, but nothing more. Ambassador Bennett held daily briefings where he would outline negotiation strategies. He would present scenarios and ask the team how they would respond. When Maya offered suggestions, he would acknowledge them but rarely incorporate them into the actual plans. She got the feeling he was simply tolerating her presence until the mission was over. Commander Price ran the ship efficiently but coldly. He conducted emergency drills without warning. testing how quickly everyone could reach their stations. Once, during Maya's sleep cycle, alarms blared, and she had to rush to the emergency assembly point in her pajamas. Price timed everyone and then criticized those who were too slow. Maya had been fast enough, but he still found something to critique about her posture. Lisa Chen and Raymond Foster were the only crew members who treated Maya like a real person. Lisa would sometimes join her in the gym, offering tips on how to build strength in low gravity. Raymond would knock on her door and invite her to watch movies in the common area, trying to help her feel less isolated. Their kindness meant everything. 2 weeks into the journey, the first glimpse of Qingshar took everyone's breath away. Maya stood in the observation deck with most of the crew, watching as the planet came into view through the massive windows. It was unlike Earth in almost every way. The continents were not green and brown but shimmered with blues and purples. Crystalline structures dotted the landscape, catching the light from the system's twin stars and refracting it into rainbows. The oceans were silver rather than blue, and strange geometric patterns were visible even from orbit, suggesting cities or structures built with technology far beyond human understanding. "That is incredible," Raymond whispered, his face pressed close to the glass. "That is terrifying," muttered Helen Ross. "We are about to meet beings who can build things like that." Commander Price's voice came over the intercom. "All personnel to stations. We are beginning our approach. Diplomatic team to the conference room immediately." Maya followed Ambassador Bennett, Dr. Shaw, and Lisa Chen to the conference room. Her heart pounded with excitement and fear. This was it. After 3 weeks of travel, after months of preparation, the moment had arrived. The Jungtar had granted them permission to land at their primary diplomatic center, a massive structure near the planet's equator. Ambassador Bennett spread holographic documents across the table. "The protocol is straightforward. We land. We are escorted to the greeting chamber, and I deliver the formal introduction speech that our teams prepared. Maya, you will translate my words into Jungtar. Dr. Shaw, you will provide backup translation if needed. Lisa, your security team stays with the ship unless specifically invited to join us. Any questions?" Maya reviewed her notes one final time. The greeting speech was ceremonial, full of formal phrases and diplomatic pleasantries. She had practiced it dozens of times. She knew every word, every tone, every inflection. But knowing something in theory and performing it in reality were different things. The Horizon Explorer descended through Qingshar's atmosphere. The ride was smoother than Maya expected. Through her porthole, she watched as they passed through layers of shimmering clouds that seemed to contain bioluminescent particles. The crystalline structures on the ground grew larger, and she could see that they were not just buildings, but entire cities that appeared to be grown rather than constructed. The landing pad was a circular platform of smooth black material that seemed to absorb light. As the ship settled onto it, Maya saw the Jungtar for the first time in person. They were waiting in formation, 6 of them standing in 2 rows. They were insectoid, as the reports had indicated, but more elegant than Maya had imagined. Their exoskeletons were iridescent, shifting between greens and blues and purples as they moved. They stood on 4 legs with 2 additional limbs that appeared to serve as arms. Their heads were triangular with multiple eyes arranged in complex patterns. They wore no clothing but had decorative items attached to their shells, symbols that Maya recognized from her studies as indicating rank and specialty. The airlock opened with a hiss. Ambassador Bennett straightened his suit and stepped out first, followed by Dr. Shaw and Maya. The air of Qingshar was breathable for humans but felt different, slightly thicker and carrying a sweet scent that reminded Maya of flowers. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, making each step feel slightly bouncy. The Jungtar remained motionless as the humans approached. This was part of their protocol. They were waiting to see how the humans would conduct themselves. Ambassador Bennett stopped at the prescribed distance of 3 meters and bowed his head slightly, the gesture of respect that human researchers had determined was appropriate. Then he began his speech. "Honored ones of Qingshar, we come as representatives of humanity, seeking friendship and mutual understanding. We bring greetings from our world and hope for a prosperous relationship between our peoples." Maya began translating, her voice clear and steady. She used the formal register of Jungtar, the tone patterns reserved for first meetings between equals. She paid careful attention to her inflection, knowing that the rising and falling tones carried as much meaning as the words themselves. But something felt wrong. The Zhengtar were not responding the way Maya expected. Their antennae, which should have been moving in a pattern that indicated receptiveness, were instead remaining still. That was a sign of confusion or displeasure. Maya's mind raced. What was wrong? Ambassador Bennett continued, not noticing the Zhengtar's reaction. We understand that knowledge is valued above all in your culture. We too seek knowledge and believe that together, our species can learn much from each other. Maya translated again, but as she spoke, she realized the problem. The word Ambassador Bennett had used, the word that Dr. Shaw's team had decided was the correct translation for honored ones, was wrong. The tone was rising when it should have been falling. The difference was subtle, almost imperceptible to someone who had not spent months immersed in the language. But to the Zhengtar, Bennett was not saying honored ones. He was saying something closer to outdated ancestors, a term that implied respect for the past, but also suggested irrelevance in the present. It was deeply insulting. Maya stopped mid-sentence. She could not continue translating words that were causing offense. Ambassador Bennett glanced at her sharply. Why did you stop? Continue. Sir, there is an error in the translation, Maya said quietly. The term we are using is incorrect. It is causing offense. Bennett's expression hardened. We have been over this translation dozens of times. It was approved by our entire linguistics team. Continue with the speech as written. But sir, the tone is wrong. We are accidentally insulting them. Dr. Shaw stepped forward. Ambassador, perhaps we should review the terminology. If Maya has concerns, we should address them. We do not have time for this, Bennett snapped. We are in the middle of a formal greeting. Stopping now will make us look incompetent. Maya, translate exactly what I say. That is an order. Maya looked at the Zhengtar. Their antennae had now tilted backward, a clear sign of growing displeasure. One of them, the largest one in the center, made a clicking sound that Maya recognized as a signal to subordinates. The other Zhengtar began to turn away. They were leaving. The greeting ceremony was collapsing before it even truly began. They are leaving, Lisa Chen said urgently. Something went very wrong. Ambassador Bennett looked panicked. He tried to call out to the Zhengtar, but they were already walking away, their movements precise and deliberate. Commander Price's voice came through the communication devices. Diplomatic team, what is happening? The Zhengtar are closing their communication channels. They are shutting us out. Maya made a decision. She could follow orders and let the mission fail, or she could break protocol and try to fix this. She thought of her mother, of Victoria Palmer, of everyone who believed in her. She thought of all the humans back on Earth who were counting on this mission to succeed. She ran forward, moving past Ambassador Bennett. Wait, she called out in Zhengtar, using the proper tone this time. Please wait. I must speak. The Zhengtar stopped. The largest one turned slowly, its multiple eyes focusing on Maya. It made a sound, a series of clicks and tones that Maya understood immediately. It was asking who she was and why she had interrupted. Maya bowed deeply, lower than Ambassador Bennett had bowed, a gesture that showed genuine humility. I am Maya Monroe, language student and cultural learner. I apologize deeply for the error in our greeting. The words spoken by my elder were not translated correctly. He meant to say honored ones of current wisdom, not outdated ancestors. The fault is mine for not correcting the error immediately. I have brought shame to my delegation. The Zhengtar made more clicking sounds. This time there was a different tone to them, something that sounded almost curious. The largest Zhengtar spoke in their language. You speak our language well, young human. Better than the others. How is this possible? I have studied your language for many months, Maya replied. I have listened to your communications, studied your grammar patterns, learned about your culture and your values. I did this because I believe that true communication requires more than just translating words. It requires understanding why those words are chosen and what they mean in context. The Zhengtar moved closer. Maya could see now that its exoskeleton had intricate patterns etched into it, markings that indicated great age and status. This was clearly the matriarch, the leader that the mission briefings had mentioned. You are very young. Why would one so young be sent on a mission of such importance? My age does not define my ability, Maya said. Among humans, we are learning to recognize talent regardless of where it comes from. I am here because I understand your language and your culture. I am here because I want our peoples to communicate truly, not just exchange empty words. The matriarch's antennae moved in a pattern Maya had seen in recordings. It indicated thoughtful consideration. Your elder spoke wrongly. You corrected him. This shows disrespect for your own hierarchy. Why should we trust a species where the young defy the old? Maya chose her words carefully. Among my people, respect means helping others avoid mistakes even when it is uncomfortable to do so. I respect my elder, which is why I could not let him continue to accidentally offend you. True respect requires honesty. Ambassador Bennett stood frozen as the matriarch gestured for the group to follow her into the main structure. His face showed a mixture of anger and shock. He had just been essentially demoted in front of alien dignitaries by a teenager. Maya could feel the tension radiating from him, but there was no time to address it now. The matriarch was already moving, and protocol demanded they follow. The interior of the Jungtar structure was breathtaking. The walls were not solid but seemed to be made of the same crystalline material that covered much of the planet's surface. Light moved through them in patterns that might have been decorative or might have carried information. The ceiling was impossibly high, and the floor beneath their feet was smooth and warm. Everything had an organic quality, as if the building had been grown rather than constructed. They entered a large circular chamber. In the center was a raised platform where the matriarch positioned herself. The other Jungtar took places around the edges of the room. The humans were directed to stand in a designated area, marked by subtle changes in the floor's color. Maya noticed that Dr. Shaw kept glancing at her with an expression she could not quite read. Was it respect or resentment? Maybe both. The matriarch made a clicking sound that indicated she was ready to begin. We will now conduct the formal exchange of intentions. Young Maya Monroe, you will translate for your elder. He may speak his words, and you will ensure they reach us correctly. Maya nodded and turned to Ambassador Bennett. She kept her voice low and respectful. Sir, I need you to speak slowly and pause between sentences so I can translate accurately. Please avoid idioms or cultural references that might not translate well. Bennett's jaw clenched. I know how to conduct diplomacy. I was doing this before you were born. I understand, sir. I am just trying to help us succeed. He took a breath and seemed to regain some composure. Whatever his personal feelings, he was professional enough to recognize that the mission had to come first. Very well. Let us proceed. The formal exchange began. Ambassador Bennett spoke about humanity's desire for peaceful cooperation, about the technological and cultural benefits that both species could gain from a partnership, about Earth's commitment to respectful interstellar relations. Maya translated each section carefully, adjusting tone and phrasing to match Jungtar diplomatic conventions. She added context where necessary, explaining references that needed clarification. The matriarch listened, her antennae moving in patterns that Maya was learning to read as indicators of interest and approval. When Bennett finished, the matriarch responded. Her words were complex, full of philosophical concepts and historical references to Jungtar culture. Your elder speaks of cooperation, but words are air without substance. We have encountered many species who promise peace but deliver only demands. The Krell came to us speaking of trade and tried to steal our technology. The Vortan came speaking of friendship and tried to establish military bases on our moons. Why should we believe humanity is different? Maya translated this for Bennett. But before he could respond, the matriarch made a gesture that indicated she was not finished speaking. However, you, young Maya Monroe, interest us. You learned our language without obligation, without knowing if you would ever use it. You studied our culture not for profit but for understanding. This suggests something about your species that gives us hope. Tell us, why did you do this? The question was directed at Maya personally, not at Ambassador Bennett. Maya felt the weight of dozens of eyes, both human and alien, focused on her. She thought about her answer carefully. I did it because I love languages. When I first heard recordings of Jungtar speech, I heard beauty in it. I heard complexity and depth. I wanted to understand not just what you were saying, but how you thought. Every language reveals something about the people who speak it. Your language reveals a culture that values precision and context, that sees meaning in layers, that understands wisdom takes many forms. I wanted to understand that. I wanted to understand you. The matriarch's antennae moved in a new pattern, one Maya had not seen before. She wished she knew what it meant. You speak of understanding, but your species has trouble understanding itself. You divide yourselves by appearance, by origin, by belief. Your elder here sees you as lesser because of your age. Others of your kind see you as lesser because your skin carries more melanin. How can you understand others when you cannot understand your own? The question was blunt and uncomfortable. Maya noticed Ambassador Bennett shift uncomfortably. This was the kind of cultural observation that diplomats usually avoided addressing directly. But the matriarch had asked, and Maya knew that evasion would be worse than honesty. You are right. We do divide ourselves in foolish ways. We let things like age and race and background create barriers between people who should work together. I have experienced this myself. Many people doubted I should be on this mission because I am young and black. They assumed I could not be qualified. But I am here because someone, our CEO Victoria Palmer, looked past those assumptions and judged me on my actual abilities. My mother got promoted to executive because she earned it, even though others thought she did not deserve it. We are learning slowly that talent exists everywhere, and we need to recognize it everywhere. A difficult lesson for any species, the matriarch observed. We Zhengtar learned it centuries ago when we nearly destroyed ourselves in conflicts between different hive groups. We thought our way of organizing knowledge was the only correct way. Other hives thought differently. We fought wars over whose philosophical approach was superior. Millions died before we realized that diversity of thought makes us stronger, not weaker. We learned to value young perspectives because youth sees patterns that age has learned to ignore. We learned to value different hive backgrounds because each brings unique insights. Your species is younger than ours. Perhaps there is hope you will learn these lessons faster than we did. Maya felt a surge of excitement. This was exactly the kind of cultural exchange that could build real understanding between species. She translated the matriarch's words for Bennett and the others, making sure to convey not just the content but the philosophical importance of what was being shared. Ambassador Bennett, to his credit, recognized the significance of the moment. Honored matriarch, we would be grateful to learn from your experiences. Perhaps by understanding how your people overcame these challenges, we can better address our own. The matriarch made an approving click. Better words this time, elder human. Perhaps having the young one translate for you improves your wisdom. Come, we will show you something that few outsiders have seen. They were led deeper into the structure, through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. Maya realized the walls were not static, but were actually responding to the Zhengtar's presence, adjusting to provide optimal lighting and temperature. It was technology far beyond anything humanity had achieved. They entered a vast library, though it was unlike any library Maya had ever seen. Instead of books or data terminals, there were crystalline structures of various sizes and colors arranged in complex geometric patterns. The matriarch approached one of the larger crystals, a deep purple one that was nearly as tall as she was. This is our memory archive. Each crystal contains knowledge preserved by previous generations. This purple one holds the history of our species, including our conflicts and our growth. We share this with you to show that all species struggle with similar problems. The question is not whether you will have conflicts. The question is whether you will learn from them. The matriarch touched the crystal with one of her limbs, and suddenly the air around them filled with images. Maya saw Zhengtar cities burning, saw armies of insectoid beings fighting each other with terrible weapons, saw destruction on a massive scale. Then she saw the aftermath, saw Zhengtar from different hives coming together, saw the slow process of rebuilding not just cities, but trust. We almost ended ourselves, the matriarch said quietly. Our pride, our certainty that we were right and others were wrong, nearly cost us everything. When we finally stopped fighting and started listening, we discovered that those we fought had ideas we needed. Their different approaches to problem-solved issues our methods could not. Together we became stronger than we ever were divided. Raymond, who had been watching in awed silence, could not help but ask a question. How long did it take? From the wars to this peace? Maya translated, and the matriarch responded. 3 generations of our people, which is approximately 100 of your years. It was not easy. Many resisted change. Many clung to old hatreds. But eventually, the voices calling for unity became louder than the voices calling for continued division. Lisa Chen stepped forward. Matriarch, may I ask a question through Maya? The matriarch gestured approval. How did you handle those who refused to change? Those who wanted to keep the divisions? We did not force them to change their minds. We simply stopped giving them power. We elevated those who showed wisdom, regardless of which hive they came from or how old they were. When the young ones, fresh with new ideas, began solving problems the old methods could not, others noticed. When cooperation produced results that conflict never could, Even the skeptics began to reconsider. The negotiations continued over the next 2 weeks, and Maya found herself at the center of every important discussion. The matriarch insisted on it, stating that the young human understood the spirit of Zhengtar communication in ways the others did not. Ambassador Bennett adapted to this new dynamic with surprising grace, recognizing that his role had shifted from lead negotiator to strategic advisor. He would consult with Maya before meetings, suggesting talking points and diplomatic approaches, then trust her to convey them in ways that resonated with Zhengtar culture. The agreements taking shape were remarkable. The Zhengtar offered to share medical technology that could revolutionize human healthcare, treating diseases that currently had no cure. They proposed educational exchanges where young humans could study advanced sciences on Qingshar, while Zhengtar scholars could learn about Earth's diverse cultures and artistic traditions. They discussed resource sharing, with the Zhengtar providing rare materials that would advance human space travel in exchange for biological samples from Earth's ecosystems, which fascinated Zhengtar scientists. Each agreement was carefully structured to ensure mutual benefit and respect. The matriarch repeatedly emphasized that any partnership must be built on equality, not exploitation. Maya made sure that every human proposal reflected this principle, adjusting language and framing to demonstrate that humanity understood the difference between cooperation and colonization. But while Maya was building bridges on Qingshar, Patricia was uncovering rot back on Earth. It started with a routine review of executive files. As the new vice president, Patricia had access to financial records and communication logs that had previously been restricted. She was looking through budget allocations for the linguistics department when she noticed something strange. Large payments had been made to an outside consulting firm, but the invoices were vague about what services were actually provided. Patricia dug deeper. The consulting firm was registered to a subsidiary of Nexus Interstellar, Sterling Galactic's biggest competitor. That alone was suspicious, but what made it damning was the timing. The payment started 6 months ago, right when Sterling Galactic began preparing for the Zhengtar mission. The amounts increased dramatically in the weeks leading up to the mission launch. She pulled up communication logs and found encrypted messages between Gregory Hamilton and executives at Nexus Interstellar. It took her IT department 3 days to crack the encryption, but when they did, the evidence was devastating. Gregory had been deliberately sabotaging the mission from the start. The messages revealed the entire scheme. Gregory had arranged for the linguistics team to receive faulty translation data, subtle errors in tone and context that would cause diplomatic incidents with the Zhengtar. He had bribed Dr. Shaw to provide those incorrect translations during the preparation phase. The plan was for Sterling Galactic's mission to fail spectacularly, insulting the Zhengtar so badly that they would refuse all contact with the company. Then Nexus Interstellar would step in with their own diplomatic team, positioning themselves as a fresh alternative untainted by Sterling's mistakes. They would secure the Zhengtar contracts, gaining access to alien technology worth trillions. Gregory would be rewarded with a leadership position at Nexus and stock options. That would make him obscenely wealthy. The only thing Gregory had not planned for was Maya. Her natural talent and independent study meant she knew the language correctly, not the sabotaged version that Dr. Shaw had been teaching everyone else. When she identified the errors and insisted on correct translations, she had unwittingly destroyed months of careful planning. Patricia sat in her office staring at the evidence, feeling sick. Gregory had been willing to damage humanity's relationship with an advanced alien species just to enrich himself. The betrayal was staggering. She immediately contacted Victoria Palmer. Victoria arrived at Patricia's office within 15 minutes, her face grim as she reviewed the documents. This is corporate espionage and sabotage of a diplomatic mission. Both are serious crimes. We need to contact the authorities immediately. What about Dr. Shaw? Patricia asked. The evidence shows he was paid to provide false translations. He could have destroyed the mission. He is on the Horizon Explorer right now. We need to alert them immediately. If he is still trying to sabotage things, Maya and the others could be in danger. Victoria sent an encrypted priority message to Commander Price, outlining the evidence against Gregory and Dr. Shaw. On Qingshar, the message arrived in the middle of the night. Commander Price reviewed it in his quarters, his expression darkening with each line he read. He immediately woke Lisa Chen and Ambassador Bennett. They gathered in the ship's secure conference room. "We have a situation," Price said, displaying the evidence on the main screen. "Dr. Shaw has been working with our competitors to sabotage this mission. According to the documents Patricia uncovered, he was supposed to ensure our translations offended the Zhengtar badly enough that they would refuse all contact with us." Lisa Chen's hand moved to her sidearm instinctively. "Where is Shaw now?" "In his quarters, sleeping as far as we know. But we need to confront him and secure him before he can cause any more damage." Ambassador Bennett looked shaken. If Maya had not corrected those translations, if she had not known the language independently, we would have failed. Shaw would have succeeded in his sabotage. "That girl saved this mission without even knowing there was a plot to destroy it," Lisa said. "We owe her more than an apology for doubting her." They went to Dr. Shaw's quarters with security personnel. When they knocked, he answered the door looking confused and sleepy. "What is going on?" "It is 3 a.m. "We need you to come with us," Commander Price said firmly. "We have evidence of your involvement in a conspiracy to sabotage this mission." Dr. Shaw's face went pale. For a moment he looked like he might run, but Lisa Chen stood in the doorway with her hand on her weapon. He slumped in defeat. "How did you find out?" "Does it matter?" Price replied. "You betrayed your crew, your company, and your species. You are under arrest." They brought him to the conference room and confronted him with the evidence. At first, Shaw tried to deny everything, claiming the messages were fabricated or taken out of context. But when Bennett played a recording of one of Shaw's conversations with Gregory, his resistance crumbled. "Gregory promised me a fortune," Shaw said quietly. "He said Nexus would make me head of their entire xenolinguistics division. He said I would finally get the recognition I deserved. I have spent 30 years studying alien languages, and what do I have to show for it? A modest salary and a windowless office. Then this girl, this teenager with no formal training, shows up and makes me look incompetent. It was not fair. So you decided to ruin humanity's chances at a historic partnership because your ego was bruised," Bennett said with disgust. "Do you understand what you almost cost us?" "I did not think the mission would actually succeed," Shaw admitted. "The translations I provided were wrong enough that any normal person would have failed. But Maya, she learned the language correctly on her own. She did not use any of the materials I prepared. She went straight to the source recordings and figured it out herself. She ruined everything. She saved everything," Lisa corrected angrily. "She did what you were supposed to do, what we paid you to do. She did it better than you ever could, and you hated her for it." Shaw had no response to that. They confined him to his quarters under guard while Commander Price contacted Earth authorities to arrange for his arrest upon their return. The rest of the crew was informed of the situation the next morning. The reaction was a mixture of shock, anger, and grudging respect for Maya's abilities. Maya herself learned about the conspiracy from Ambassador Bennett over breakfast. She sat in stunned silence as he explained Gregory's plot, Shaw's betrayal, and how her independent study had accidentally foiled the entire scheme. "I do not understand," Maya said slowly. "Dr. Shaw seemed professional during training. He was cold, but I thought he was just skeptical about my abilities. I did not realize he actively wanted me to fail." "He wanted all of us to fail," Bennett said. "But you would not let that happen." "Maya, I owe you an apology. I doubted you from the start. I thought Victoria made a mistake putting someone so young on this mission. I was wrong. You have been the most valuable member of this team. Without you, we would have failed before we even began." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. Hearing that from Bennett, who had questioned her every step of the way, meant more than she could express. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot. The matriarch requested a meeting with you this morning. She heard about the situation through channels I do not fully understand. I think she wants to discuss something important." Maya found the matriarch in the same library chamber where they had first really connected. The alien leader made a greeting click as Maya approached. "Young Maya Monroe, we have learned of the betrayal within your delegation. We are not surprised. Every species has individuals who place personal gain above collective good. What impresses us is how you overcame it without even knowing it existed. I was just trying to communicate correctly. I did not know anyone wanted me to fail. That is precisely why you succeeded." 6 months after returning from Qingshar, Maya stood in front of a mirror adjusting her collar. Today was important, maybe the most important day since the mission itself. She was about to address the United Earth Council, a gathering that included representatives from every nation and every major space colony. They wanted to hear her proposal for a new approach to interstellar relations, one based on the lessons learned from the Zhengtar partnership. Her apartment was much nicer than the small place she had shared with her mother before the mission. Sterling Galactic had given her a generous salary and benefits package, though Maya had insisted on keeping things relatively simple. The walls were covered with books about languages, cultures, and philosophy. On her desk sat the crystal of Qingshar, still glowing softly with its inner light. Patricia knocked on the bedroom door. "You ready, baby? The car is here to take us to the council building." Maya took a deep breath. "As ready as I will ever be." "Mom, what if they do not listen? What if they think I am just a kid who got lucky once?" Patricia walked over and put her hands on Maya's shoulders, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "Then you remind them of what you have accomplished. You negotiated humanity's most important treaty. You exposed a conspiracy that could have destroyed our relationship with an advanced species. You did all of that at 16. Now you are 17, and you have 6 months of experience working as Chief Xenolinguistic Officer for one of the most powerful companies on Earth. If they do not listen, that is their failure, not yours." They rode to the council building in comfortable silence. Maya watched the city pass by outside the window. So much had changed in half a year. The Zhengtar had already shared medical technology that was saving lives. The first group of human students had departed for Qingshar to study at their universities. Zhengtar scholars had arrived on Earth and were absolutely fascinated by human art, music, and literature. The partnership was working exactly as hoped, but Maya knew it was not enough. The Zhengtar were just one species among thousands in the galaxy. Humanity needed a comprehensive approach to interstellar relations, one that emphasized understanding and respect rather than exploitation and military dominance. That was what she was going to propose today. The council building was massive, a structure of glass and steel that housed representatives from every corner of human civilization. Security was tight, but Maya had clearance that got her through quickly. She was escorted to a private room where she could wait before her presentation. Ambassador Bennett was already there, looking over notes on a datapad. "Nervous?" he asked with a slight smile. "Terrified," Maya admitted. "Good. That means you care about doing this right. I have read your proposal. It is ambitious, maybe too ambitious for some of these politicians to accept. But it is exactly what humanity needs. You are going to face resistance from people who think we should approach alien species from a position of strength rather than equality. You are going to face skepticism from those who think cultural understanding is a waste of resources compared to military preparedness. Do not let them shake your confidence." "How do I convince them?" "You tell them the truth. You tell them that the Zhengtar chose to work with us not because we had the biggest weapons or the most money, but because we demonstrated values they respected. You tell them that every other species out there is watching how we behave, judging whether we are worthy of their attention. You tell them that the universe is full of wonders we cannot even imagine, but we will never experience those wonders if we approach every new encounter with suspicion and arrogance." The door opened, and Raymond Foster walked in carrying a box. "I brought you something for luck." "Well, not really luck. Science does not believe in luck. But maybe confidence?" He opened the box to reveal a small plant, different from the peace lily he had given her before. This one had blue flowers that seemed to shimmer. "It is from Qingshar. The matriarch sent it for you. Apparently, these flowers are given to young Zhengtar when they take on adult responsibilities. It is a symbol of growth and new beginnings." Maya felt tears threaten. Even from millions of miles away, the matriarch was supporting her. "Thank you, Ray, for everything. You were one of the only people who believed in me from the start. I believed in curiosity and genuine passion. You had both. Still do." A staff member appeared at the door. "Ms. Monroe, the council is ready for you." Maya picked up her notes and the Zhengtar flower, taking strength from both. She walked through corridors filled with important people, dignitaries and officials who represented billions of humans. She entered the main chamber, and the scale of it took her breath away. The room was circular with stadium-style seating rising up on all sides. Representatives from nearly 200 nations and colonies filled the seats. At the center was a raised platform with a podium and a holographic display system. Victoria Palmer sat in the front row of the observer section, giving Maya an encouraging nod. Patricia sat beside her, looking nervous but proud. Lisa Chen was there too, along with several crew members from the Horizon Explorer. Their presence gave Maya courage. The council chair, an elderly woman named Margaret Chen from the Asian Coalition, called the session to order. We are honored today to hear from Maya Monroe, Chief Xenolinguistic Officer of Sterling Galactic Industries and primary architect of the Zhengtar Partnership Accords. Ms. Monroe, the floor is yours. Maya stepped up to the podium. She looked out at all those faces, at all those people who had the power to shape humanity's future among the stars. She thought about her mother, who had worked 15 years before anyone recognized her worth. She thought about the matriarch, who had trusted a teenage girl because of her honesty rather than her credentials. She thought about every person who had ever been told they were not good enough, not qualified enough, not the right kind of person to accomplish great things. Thank you. Council Chair Chen. 6 months ago, I was a 16-year-old girl who loved studying languages. Today, I stand before you as someone who has communicated with an alien species, who has helped negotiate agreements that will benefit all of humanity. I am not telling you this to brag. I am telling you this because it illustrates an important truth. Potential exists everywhere and everyone, regardless of age, background, or appearance. The question is whether we are willing to recognize it. She activated the holographic display, showing images of Qingshar, of the Zhengtar, of the beautiful crystalline cities and the knowledge archives. The Zhengtar are more advanced than us in almost every way. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their understanding of physics and biology surpasses our greatest scientists. They could have treated us as primitives, as curiosities to be studied or resources to be exploited, but they did not. Do you know why? She paused, letting the question hang in the air. Because they judged us not on our technological level but on our values. They watched how we treated each other. They watched to see if we honored our commitments. They watched to see if we approached them with respect or with arrogance. And when they saw that at least some humans understood the importance of cultural understanding, they decided we were worth their time. A representative from the European Federation stood up. Ms. Monroe, with all respect, we cannot base our entire approach to alien contact on one successful encounter. What about species that are not as benevolent as the Zhengtar? What about potential threats? That is a fair question, Maya replied. And I am not suggesting we abandon all defensive capabilities. What I am proposing is that we approach first contact situations with the goal of understanding rather than the assumption of conflict. The Zhengtar told me about other species they have encountered. Some were hostile, yes. But more often hostility arose from misunderstandings, from cultural differences that were not recognized or respected. When species took the time to actually communicate, to learn about each other's values and concerns, peaceful solutions became possible. She changed the holographic display to show data and statistics. Since establishing our partnership with the Zhengtar, we have already seen tremendous benefits. Medical treatments that have saved thousands of lives. Educational opportunities that are producing the next generation of scientists and diplomats. Trade that has boosted our economy without exploiting anyone. All of this came from choosing cooperation over confrontation. Another representative stood, this one from the American Union. Your proposal calls for establishing a universal translation and cultural exchange program. The cost estimate is enormous. How do you justify spending that much on translation services when we have so many other pressing needs? Maya had expected this question. The cost of misunderstanding is far greater than the cost of translation. The conspiracy I helped expose could have cost us the entire Zhengtar partnership. The value of that partnership in terms of technology and knowledge alone is worth trillions. But beyond the economics, consider what we lose when we fail to communicate effectively. We lose opportunities to learn from beings who have different perspectives on the universe. We lose the chance to solve problems collaboratively. We lose the possibility of friendship with species who could enrich our understanding of existence itself. She looked directly at the representative.